Advanced English Arabic Learning Session 116. Her stomach was churning at the thought of the ordeal. Artists continued to churn out uninteresting works. The factory churns out thousands of pairs of these shoes every week. His personality is somewhat off-putting. I put up the tent and cooked a meal. The fertile coastal plain. Fertile land is the nation's most important natural resource. The confined air of the Paris metro offered him one of his most fertile ideas. Locate the area where you can go rabbiting. Stop rabbiting on, will you, and go to bed. He rabbited as soon as he saw us coming. See you tomorrow and thank your mother for the rabbits. Their operation is pretty bush league, no professionalism at all. He was playing in a bush league. Make sure you close the curtains at night, just in case there's a voyeur in the neighborhood. Voyeurs are scary, but they are usually harmless. Color me proud. Color me happy. I have to make bowel movement. Swill your mouth with the vinegar. Don't give me that malarkey. His home was transmogrified into a hippie crash pad. Almost overnight, that sweet little child had transmogrified into an anti-social monster. Help me please patch up things with him. 1 coat of enamel and 3 coats of varnish. The tea set is decorated with enamel. Teeth have a hard surface layer called enamel. Subcutaneous fat. His feet had gone septic. Ulcers were bandaged with antiseptic gauze. Septic tank. A septic tank or the sewer mains. Severely septic patients. Despite his youth, he worked as an upholsterer. The mangrove is the sacred tree of her husband's clan. He grovelled at George's feet. He relaxed and began to groove. They were grooving to Motown. Just sitting around, grooving on the music. He is groveling to gain a grove of mangrove. An apple orchard, grove. An olive grove. His groveling references to great historians. The distal zone is characterized by pyroclastic flow deposits. The eruption of lavas and pyroclastics. The difference between lava and pyroclastic flows lies on its speed. Spinal curvature. Encouraging students to parrot back information. She just parrots anything he says. The toddler parroted everything her father said. The small incision was sutured. Expected return on a stock is analogous to the interest rate on a bond. They saw the relationship between a ruler and his subjects as analogous to that of father and children. The legislation is applicable only to British subjects. He'd subjected her to a terrifying ordeal. The city had been subjected to Macedonian rule. They have to tolerate each other's little foibles. We all have our little foibles. He was amused by the foibles of his eccentric neighbor. Talks cannot go on indefinitely. An indefinitely large number of channels. They may face indefinite detention. We had no definite plans. They presented with severe intestinal obstruction. Bureau is also a chest of drawers. Over time he continued with this sort of gaslighting, playing with my mind. Patty and Adam gaslight Ashley, making her believe that Sabrina's ghost is haunting her. Police can detain suspects without charges if they are considered flight risks. The cause of death was preeclampsia. She plays the clarinet in a swing band. A sample of people who are rather atypical of the target audience. After paying our daughter's college tuition, "We're tapped out." He tapped his opponent out in what seemed like 10 seconds. "I cannot speak, I am tapping out." A dark contusion on his cheek was beginning to swell. The horse makes his fencing debut today. Chestnut is still in demand for fencing. A moment of unbridled ambition. He unbridled his mare and let her roam. They walked the bridleway which led to the barn. Walk off your meal with the 15-minute walk along the bridleway to the village. The gases impinge on the surface of the liquid. Mobile technology makes it easier for work to impinge on family life. You can't impinge on other people's rights. The proposed fencing would impinge on a public bridleway. Several factors impinge on market efficiency. Righting the economy demanded major cuts in defense spending. The cost of the police time needed to chase up every new offense. You could see through the slit in the fence. Attacks on defenseless civilians. She boosted the little boy up to see over the fence. Youths were clambering over barbed wire fences. Many shortcomings in the existing flood defenses. The fence had been trampled down. The offense justified instant dismissal. The defense portfolio could be the carrot to dangle before him. They were seeking to pierce the anti-ballistic missile defenses. Our garden was not fully fenced. A small plantation of young trees had been fenced off. Walkers may find themselves fenced out of the moor. Green spandex leggings. He held up his little nephew in his arms. He left his inheritance to his 2 nieces. "How are your nerves holding up?" He is coy about his age. The snow was turning into brown slush in the gutters. She is deeply invested in this project and wants it to succeed. She claims to be able to regress to the Roman era. Deep wrinkles lined his face. An officer lined them up and gave them a short speech. We would line up across the parade ground, shoulder to shoulder. "Have you got any work lined up?" Gently rotate the lens to line up the 2 halves of the image. The edges of the images line up perfectly. The instrumental lineup is piano, drums, and lead and bass guitar. Hour-long lineups are common during peak periods. That thread kept a lot of people in line. Britain has come into line with other Western democracies in giving the vote to its citizens living abroad. The police had no difficulty getting a line on the man. The club are in line for a windfall of £300,000. An inspector's funeral is given only for those killed in the line of duty. I'm going to have to lay it on the line, tell them what really has been happening. The banks drew a line in the sand, there was to be no additional help. A building which obstructs our line of sight. Their careers were on the line. A basket lined with polythene. She kneed him in the groin. Please, help me knead this dough. Are you gonna clear that bridge? The plane rose high enough to clear the trees. She want to hear a male perspective in a particular issue. I don't get along with my sister. She was gratified to see the shock in Jim's eyes. The curtailment of human rights. What organs do they harvest? He is nothing but the puppet of ventriloquists. Hibiscus petals have waxy lines that gave the plants their iridescence. He developed sciatica in his left hip. He is conceited, he'd never believe anyone would refuse him. The capo claims he controls most of the world's heroin trade. Sweeping measures to curb official graft. Attorney General accused Finance Minister on graft charges. Would you be a doll and set the table? It flattered his vanity to think I was in love with him. Let's return to the main topic after that brief digression. That would be a digression from the main purpose of this meeting. After this digression, she returned to the central issue. The ageless singer looked flawless. The ageless argument about whether human beings possess free will. As usual, she gave a riveting performance. His story makes riveting listening. Quartz watches are more accurate than those driven by clockwork. A collection of dissimilar nations lacking overall homogeneity. This news has left me totally flabbergasted. I'm listening to a guy mansplain economics to his wife. She felt lonesome and out of things. A lonesome town. Let it rip. His rivals don't stand a chance. She stands a good chance of winning the election. The end. Coming next. Session 117.